Good morning, fish keepers. We've done it. We've made it to Friday. Let's be happy. Let's do coffee. That is a good. The coffee is good, but I think I might have cooked my milk just a little bit too long. It feels separated. Look at me being a bougie coffee guy. All right, so first and foremost, the shop is open tomorrow. Oh, before we go any further, let's bring John on. Hi, John.
Hiya.
How you doing?
I'm not doing too bad.
That's good.
Yourself?
Yeah, so the shop, good, very good, very good. Shop's open tomorrow from 10 till 3. If you're in Nelson, we're down in Katoa Place, so come check us out. We've got a decent load of accessories and dry goods and stuff like that earlier in the week, and we've got some absolutely stunning guppies if you're in the market for guppies. So come on down to the shop and pick up some cool fish stuff. Morning, Brian. How you doing? Cool. So got a bit of stuff to talk about on my list of things to do today. I'm feeling a little bit disjointed because just as we're about to go live, John dropped off and now he's come back again. So I'm just a little bit discombobulated. Is that a word? I don't know. Maybe I've had a little bit too much caffeine as well. Morning, Gary. How are you? So first and foremost, I would like to know what everyone would like to see us doing on social media. So are you enjoying the mixture and combination of what's going on out the back here, incoming fish videos, things that we're doing in quarantine, the vlogs we're doing on TikTok, obviously the live streams we do here on YouTube and Facebook and all that kind of stuff? Are you enjoying that? Do you want to see some slightly different stuff? Is there some particular content that you want us to cover? Please let us know, and we'll try and maximize that for you guys as much as possible. Otherwise, it's basically me just going, cool, this looks pretty cool. I'll take a video of that and let's do that, which is fine if that's what you want to see. If not, yeah, like I said, just leave us a few messages or some comments and let us know what it is you may or may not want to see us doing, and we can work from there for you. Is there fish profiles you want to do, plant profiles, more blogs, less blogs?
Aquariums.
More podcasts, less podcasts. Lots of options. Let us know what everyone wants to see and watch and listen, and we can go from there and make it work for everybody. Cool. Right. So, cool. Tank build and fish unboxing delivery is always cool. Yep, sweet. Happy to do plenty of unboxing when we've got them in. I quite enjoy doing them as well. It's nice. I kind of forget what I ordered from the day before or the day before that, and then oh wow, I ordered this. Oh man, these are cool. So it's also nice for me as well. So yeah. There was a conversation on Facebook on one of the pages last week, I believe it was, about, I think it was Facebook at least, about people, shops in particular, allowing or letting the customers know where their fish have come from, whether they're like local bred from a breeder or they've been sourced from importers or wholesale breeders sort of thing. So I've actually taken that that particular comment or that particular thread that was on and gone, that actually makes a heck of a lot of sense. So moving forward, every time we get new fish in or loaded on the website, something like that, I'm going to put a note on them where we've sourced them from, so people know whether or not they're coming from a local breeder, whether they've been freshly imported or whether they've been coming from a wholesale breeder as well, just so everyone has a bit of an idea of where their stock's coming from. So I thought that was a pretty good idea and a great concept, and it's not going to be particularly hard for us to implement it. So I'm not going to go through all the stock that we've got right now, but like whenever we get new stock come on and I've got to adjust all the numbers, I'll adjust all that at the same time as well. So there's a wee little adjustment. What was that, mate?
A good bit of clarity when you're buying livestock, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's some people that are happy for import, and there's some people that want to only be buying locally bred stuff. So that'll just give us a bit of clarity there. So whiptails, they totally depends on. Let's just comment there. Totally depends on where, like, I purchase them from. There is definitely people that are breeding them. Speaking at Royal Whiptails here, definitely people that are breeding them, and the importers are bringing them in as well. And so that'll depend on where I've got them at the time. There is, one lot will be from breeders, another lot will be from imports. So it'll just depend on what stock I've got at the time. Yeah. Yep. Well, I've got that on my notes here, so we'll discuss that. Don't you worry about that. Don't you worry about that. About third or fourth down my list. So I just put a picture up on Facebook of some aquariums that we had delivered yesterday. So it's another 24 65-litre aquariums that we're going to be using for quarantining out the back. So the reason behind this is over the last 6 weeks or so, I've noticed we've actually been unable to keep a lot of fish in stock for a long enough period of time. So, like, for the process, we'll get it into the door, it goes into an in-house quarantine for at least 2 weeks, and then we on-sell them. So at the moment, they'll get through the 2 weeks, we'll release them, put them into our sales tank, and within a couple of days, sometimes they're all sold out, 3 or 4 days sort of thing, and then we've got to go through another 2-week period before we can get them in. So I feel like we're doing a bit of a disjustice to you, the hobbyist, having the fish that you want on hand the whole time. So I noticed that there was an issue and there was a bottleneck, and I had to somehow make a way of working through it. And so the way of working through it is increasing our capability of holding more fish coming in. Mm-hmm. So what I'm hoping will happen is basically we're doubling the tanks. In an ideal world, there'll be one rack of 24, one rack of 24. 1 week we'll have a whole lot of stuff in, and then they'll be released, and as the next week we'll get another lot in, so sort of every other week there'll be fish coming in and out. So hopefully we've got a decent flow, and like if we sell out of one after 3 days, there's only another few days until more come through, as opposed to 2 weeks, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm hoping will happen. That's going to be the attempt. Hopefully that doesn't leave a bottleneck of people missing out on fish and us selling out real quickly. So it'll be a couple of weeks till they get set up. There's already fish. We were putting it in the corner. There's 2 racks of 12 tanks that are fish that I'm holding into for spawning in my own personal reasons. So because we've got new fish in the holding tanks, we've got to move everything over, move the tanks out, knock up the shelves, put the tanks in, get all of it going. So it's going to be a little bit of a wiggle around. It'll probably take 6 weeks or so for it to get done, but that's the process where we're going with at the moment. So fingers crossed that that helps with that in the upcoming months. So we will see from there. So because it's been discussed already, we'll talk about the clown launch tank. So the base was delivered incorrectly last week. It turned up as toughened glass as opposed to just standard float glass. So that was replaced and arrived on Wednesday, I think it was this week. Yesterday, the bracing all arrived, so the bracing strips to go on the bottom of it to strengthen it all up and all that kind of stuff, which basically leaves me today and tomorrow, I think. What's tomorrow? Basically leaves me today to finish the tank, which clearly is not going to happen. So I have missed my deadline, unfortunately. I wish that I hadn't, because I really don't want to sing publicly on a live stream, but that is what it is. So I have missed my deadline. So the punishment for that is, like I said, I have to sing a song on my live stream. Rochelle has nominated the song of the Little Mermaid song. Yeah. I am assuming that is Under the Sea. I'm not 100% sure if that's correct. Can you please clarify if that is the song that you want me to sing? And if that's the case, I don't know any more of the words than Under the Sea. So I actually don't know the song, so I'm going to have to listen to it a few times to get my head around it. So that will be done, not this week, but the week after. I'm not doing it this week because I have no idea what the song is. And I do not want to do it next week because we've got a guest on and I for their ears, and out of respect for what we do when we have guests on, I don't want to be doing it for that as well. So it'll be the week after. I'm not ignoring it or hiding from it, but I just, because I don't know the song, I don't think it's right to do it today because I've got no clue, and I also don't think it's right to do it next week.
Well, if it's going to be in 2 weeks' time, Cam, we could probably find you a Little Mermaid outfit.
I'm not getting dressed up.
Yeah, we probably could.
I'm not getting dressed up.
Some nice clams.
I'm not getting dressed up.
Red hair wig.
I'm not doing it. I will not get dressed up. So if you can please confirm that it is Under the Sea that I'm meant to be seeing, then that is fine. I did enjoy the suggestion of the Linkin Park song that I saw yesterday. I think that's a good time as well. But if it's Under the Sea, it's Under the Sea, and I'm not getting dressed up. No chance. So anyway, that's where that's at. Unfortunately, I missed the deadline. For as much as I tried, I dare say if the glass had turned up correctly, then we would have had a chance of getting it completed and getting it sealed up. Under the Sea it is. Of getting it sealed up and possibly cycled by now, but unfortunately not. Under the Sea, I'll write that down. I will listen to it a few times and I will make sure I can get that under control. Yeah, it is what it is. It's unfortunate, but so that's a wee update on the Clown Loach tank. I would far rather it be completed and have the work done than be singing a song in a couple weeks' time, but I said I would. I'm a man of my word, so we'll make that happen.
I'll write that down as well.
Yeah, thanks, mate. So John's worked really hard on a blog over the last week or so.
Yeah.
So I'll let you talk about that because I believe that should be released and ready to go on the website as of now or pretty soon.
Yeah, no.
Cool.
It is called Why Is My Aquarium Water Green? Now, the blog basically approaches it like towards new fish keepers or people that have never experienced this kind of problem before. So it breaks down what the problem is, how it happens or why it happens. It gives a lot of different reasons and scenarios of how it could happen. And obviously following on from that, it then opens up different options on how to prevent it and then how to resolve it. So it's quite an inclusive blog. And hopefully it's helpful to somebody out there.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically all about green water. It's an issue that happens a lot. A lot of fish keepers have had green water before. There's a lot of reasons why it happens and a lot of ways you can get rid of it. But it's definitely something that pops up on like Facebook groups and Google questions and stuff like that all the time. So, it's something we just thought we'd address, and we've got a written text there ready to go for people that are questioning why their aquarium water is turned to pea soup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I released another podcast today, another Aquarium Frenzy podcast. It's the one that we had Chris Luke up on with. So that was a few months ago now. Believe it or not, I had more issues with editing the podcast. The one that we used the week before didn't work again properly this week. So not sure what's going on. All I'm literally trying to do is just cut out the introduction that we have before we have the guest on. So that's a bit of a pain in the ass, but it is what it is. So the Chris Luke up one is up, ready to go. Like I said, we spoke to him a few months ago. It was a really good time learning about shrimp and some of his underwater photography and his journeys around the world and stuff like that. So that was really enjoyable. So it's available on Spotify. It'll be released, I think, now if I set it properly. Otherwise, it'll be directly after we get off this live video. I'm not 100% sure what time I set it for, but yeah, be now or then. So yeah. Apple snails, yes, they are. Golden apple snails are legal in New Zealand. Brown apple snails are legal as well. So we have a couple of different varieties of snails here, and then we get the blue mysteries and brown mysteries as well. So that's pretty much all we get. Then trumpet snails, ramshorn snails, bladder snails. There might be another one, but none of the cool ones like the assassins, which is unfortunate because I think they're really cool. That's what we have here. Only a couple different colours of the mystery snails. We could if we had a few more of them, but we don't. So yeah. New Zealand mud snails. I don't even know what a New Zealand mud snail is. Let me Google that later on. NZ mud snails. Cool. No, African land snails are a no-go. There's another Three Idiots podcast that was released on the weekend between Cameron from the Aquarium Project, Ryan, the dude that breeds African cichlids, and myself. So this time we were speaking about where our fish come from, kind of in the same vein of like local versus imported, from a bit more of a supply chain sort of scenario. So if you're looking for a little bit of insight of what kind of happens in the industry, where your fish are coming from, basically, it's worth having a listen to or a watch. Again, it's on Spotify or onto on YouTube. So it just gives a bit more of an insight, bridging the gap between the shops and new hobbyists and stuff like that. So don't have too much left on here, but we've got some more. So tomorrow is the 1st of July. Every July we get behind what used to be called the Key to Life Foundation. It's now been turned into the I Am Hope, or renamed to the I Am Hope Foundation. So every July we run a campaign. Of every single sale that we do, we donate $1 to that charity. So this year is no different. I think this is the 3rd or the 4th year that we've done this. So as of tomorrow, for the entire month of July, every sale that we do will have a $1 donation into the I Am Hope charity. So I think it's a noble cause to be backing. It's a really important cause. Everyone has been, generally speaking, affected by suicide in some description, and they're trying to normalize mental health by talking about it, particularly in our young people. So if that is something that you feel strongly about, you can help us support them by making purchases, basically. For some reason, if you want to buy a plant for $5 and then 10 minutes later buy another plant for $5 and do that for the rest of the day because you only wanted 10 plants, well, then I'm donating $10, or we're donating $10 as part of that. So every single sale that comes through, that'll be a donation to that. So get behind that. I think it's a really good cause, and I'm really proud that it's something that we do every single year. So that's what we do there.
Yeah.
Only got a couple things left. Next week, although I've got to completely confirm again, we've got Remy from Aqua House coming to speak with us. We penciled him a couple weeks ago, so I'll just confirm that via an email today. Hopefully we're all good to go still. So Remy has been responsible for bringing the Tropica tissue culture in to New Zealand, which is fantastic, and some of the fertilizers and a whole bunch of other stuff. So they run a aquascaping shop down in Christchurch. It's predominantly based on aquascaping, aquatic plants, and all that sort of stuff. So we'll be having them on, and we'll be talking probably about the process of setting up for the aquaculture, as well as some of the process when it comes to aquascaping. So if you're into aquatic plants and you're into learning about aquascaping, next week's probably going to be a really good episode for you to watch and enjoy and to be involved in. So if you've got any questions that you'd like me to ask them, please feel free to leave a comment or send us a message, and we'll chuck it into the list of things we're going to ask them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one myself.
Yeah. Remy's a really nice guy.
Yes, yeah.
I've enjoyed dealing with him and asking questions and learning about the aquaculture, about the tissue culture and stuff like that as well. So it should be pretty good. So I'm looking forward to that one. And last but not least, I'm just about compiling everything I need to do about the NOS gel food, the video I'm going to do. So I should be recording it next week. I've had some communication with New Life Spectrum regarding a couple of the products that I'm questioning and asking about. I'm still waiting for one last following reply, which I haven't got a week, so I'm going to send another email later today. As soon as I get that reply and I get that question answered, I'll begin recording my video. So for those of you that aren't aware, we're testing the New Life Spectrum gel, the New Life Spectrum algae gel, and the New Life Spectrum dough. So there's 3 in that range. The gels are very similar to the Rapashi range, mixed with water, turns into a gel food, feed it out. The dough is slightly different. It turns into like a dough, believe it or not, hence the name. And you can sort of mold it like Play-Doh and put it on your tank or put it onto things, and depending on how you want to use it. So as soon as I get that response to my email, I'm pretty much ready to record. I have already recorded some bits, so yeah, we're nearly done with that. So there's definitely been some people that have been interested in that, and we had a lot of people asking some questions that they wanted answered as well. So yeah, that'll be a good video. Should be recording it next week, and maybe this time next week it might be released. Cool. So that is all that I've got, I believe. Yep, that is all that I've got on my list of things that I've written down.
Okay.
So today's topic, John and I thought we would discuss algae, and it's always a fun topic. How it occurs, why it's there, do we need to be worried about it, and all that sort of stuff. So, do you want to start, John?
Yeah, 2 seconds.
Okay.
I'm just taking a note of a question that Nick's has put in the comments there for next week.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good question. What's the difference of branch of aquascape?
Right. Okay, so algae. Love it or hate it? I think personally every tank needs a little bit of algae. I don't think a tank's natural if it's got no algae. And if somebody's saying they've got no algae, I think they may be lying. Because it's got to be present in every aquarium on some level. But us as fish keepers, there's definitely things that we can do that stops the algae becoming a problem. And it all comes down to competing for nutrients between algae and plants. And obviously water maintenance and general housekeeping. So I do like to have a little bit of algae. I'm not sure if it's my personal aesthetics or aesthetic choice, or it's whether I've just accepted defeat and I know I'll never ever have an algae-free aquarium. But I do think fish benefit from a little bit of algae because they pick, they pick at it, and there's microorganisms that live in it, and it's a natural thing. So it can't be bad. And I think only when it becomes like an algae bloom, or the whole aquarium is just sludge, it becomes a major problem. What do you think? I mean, are you a fan of having a little bit of algae, or?
Yeah,
No?
I'm in the same boat as you. I'm quite okay with it in most situations. I always want to keep my front glass clean of algae so I can see into my aquarium. But when it's developing on the sides or on hardscapes and stuff like that, I'm normally quite okay with it. I think as a general rule, us hobbyists freak out over algae far too much to what we should. It's just part and parcel of a natural ecosystem. It's just part and parcel of an aquarium maturing.
Yeah.
And saying that, like, blackbeard algae, for example, can really take over a planted aquarium if you don't, deal with it pretty quickly. And we don't want that because, as much as we're trying to care for our fish, we also need to care for our plants as well, and stuff like that's going to hinder that. So I think that there is definitely a time and a place where algae is fine, and where it's not like in a blackwater aquarium, I couldn't care less how much algae sort of comes through. I think it makes it look far more natural. Like I said, the fish have something to pick on, and it just becomes what it is. But if I'm trying to keep a really, really clean and clear aquarium, then I'm probably going to do a little bit more work on the algae, depending on what it is. Like some green dust or some green spot algae all over rocks, or some green slime algae on rocks on a African cichlid tank. It looks phenomenal. So why would I take that off if that makes sense? But like I've got a heavily planted tank, I've got string algae everywhere, and blackbeard tufts popping up everywhere, then I'm going to try and deal with that because I'm wanting it to be far cleaner for my
I think
plant.
there's algae that appears because of errors we are making, and there's algae that just naturally appears.
Yeah.
And there is a big difference in blackbeard algae, or all the other ugly ones, slime algae, are all just signs that something's not been getting done properly.
Often,
or
yeah.
It's getting too much sunlight at one point, and
yeah, totally. And you make a good point here that algae is like pest populations and the visual barometer for your tank. You got far too many pest, you're putting too much food into the water. It's pretty pretty simple, those things, and it's very much a true point. So it's all about putting on the balance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's obviously some algae that are just you don't want. Green water, for example, is something you just don't want because you can't enjoy what you're doing. But there's solutions around that. Like you wrote in the blog today, there's solutions around that, and there's causes behind that. So again, I think as a hobby, I think we're too hard on ourselves about trying to get crystal clear water, no algae and stuff like that. And that's why products like Algae Fix exist.
Exactly.
To combat that. And often people will just mask the issue by using algae cures and stuff like that, as opposed to working out what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. Everybody, or most people, want a nice simple solution, and that's human nature. That's again another reason why those algae cures and stuff exist. But algae are an imbalance of something that's not quite working. Whether in an immature aquarium, too much food going in there, too much phosphates, too much nitrates, or what have you. So
yeah, I think Rebecca made a valid point in that as well. Oh, sorry, wrong one. I think algae and the different types are part of a succession of a natural aquarium, which can take years to settle. Small nutrient additions might cause some blooms. And that's something that's quite obvious when you're dealing with like a high-powered aquascape. Because of the amount of nutrients that's going in there with CO2, it's the perfect environment for algae, just like it is plants. And if you're not careful with the maintenance and removing the slightest bit, if you're wanting zero algae, it can happen in a matter of days. You could have algae everywhere just because of the type of high energy that's floating around in that tank.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like I'll have people coming in that have just recently set an aquarium. They've gone through their filter cycle, chucked some fish in. A few weeks later, all my stuff's green. What's going on? Pulling their hair out. It's just part and parcel of a maturing tank.
Yeah.
And as seasoned hobbyists, like many of us in the chat and many of us watching, you kind of know that. But if you're fresh on board, it's the end of the world because you've got green somewhere.
Aye.
I once had a high-tech planted aquarium. It was in the corner of my lounge. Got absolutely no direct sunlight. It was completely controlled. Everything was great, except for one part of the year. I'd always get this spot about this big of green spot algae. I could never work out what was going on. And then I looked, and through the spare room, through the hallway, the sunlight in the afternoon would go bang straight into the tank. Just on this tiny little patch for 45 minutes a day or something like that for that month or so. So I started realizing what it was. I shut the door, and the algae never came back. So even little things like that can what the heck is going on here?
Yeah,
can be enough to cause algae. So
it's because it's a natural occurring thing, isn't it?
100%. You go down streams and waterways and stuff like that. There's always algae through it. It's not a bad thing.
No. And like you touched on as well with the black water setups, if you're going for a natural look, algae has to be a part of that.
I think so. Yeah. So, do we want to get in depth on some of the types of algae? Are people interested in sort of hearing about that, or not? Like we can talk about blackbeard algae because it's probably one of the more common ones. How that has occurred and how to get rid of it if people want. So, started talking about that, we might as well. So my understanding, a lot of blackbeard algae is caused by fluctuations of organic matters or high buildups of organic matters. This can be as much as not having decent enough maintenance going around, food breaking down quite significantly, having like big pieces of wood beginning to break down in your aquarium can do it as well. Also not having a decent enough flow through your aquarium to push things through the filter can be a way that blackbeard algae takes off. It's one of the harder ones to get rid of, but it's also equally easy to get rid of, if that makes sense. Like, you can't just wipe it off because it attaches really well. There's not that many fish that eat it. The Siamese algae eaters will eat eat it while they are young and while the algae itself is young. But once it gets older, it won't touch it. And as the fish get bigger, they won't touch it as well. So that could be a pain. But simple things like Flourish XL can get rid of it. And so can APT Fix. And Gary, who may or may not still be in the chat, was saying to me a few months back that he was having blackbeard algae and he tried a phosphate removing pad in his filter and it cleaned it up in no time. So that was some of the research he did. He found that high phosphate and the phosphate pad can help basically starve that algae and kill it off. So there's a few ways of doing that. And yes, Rebecca, I have noticed that blackbeard seems to like plant roots. Any of the plants that I've got sort of dangling in, the roots seem to be attached by that as well. That might be a flow thing if there's not a lot of moving around the roots. But yeah, I have definitely noticed that any plant roots dangling down, Indian fern roots seem to attract blackbeard algae quite nicely as well. So yeah.
Do you have ever experienced fuzz algae?
I always thought people talk about fuzz algae was blackbeard or staghorn. They were the two that most people tend to describe as fuzz algae. As far as staghorn goes, I believe that is, and again, another simple fix. It's Flourish XL kills it off, and so does APT Fix. Off the top of my head, I don't know what is the cause of staghorn algae. I haven't had to deal with it for a little while. I haven't had many people come in talking about it for a little while, so it's not really been triggered recently to sort of think about. But yeah, yeah.
And mammals is something that's quite good at getting rid of staghorn, but obviously you don't get shrimps down there.
No.
Yeah. You can use the ammonia as well directly. I think that's the one. You use the syringe and you just kind of burn it with the ammonia.
Yeah, hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yep, that works really well. I've heard a lot of people using that with no dramas whatsoever as well. So yeah, string algae is another one. String algae I find responds really well to manually removing it yourself if you can to start with. A pen, wrapping it around, or a toothbrush or something like that, and getting as much as you physically can off. Doing a big water change and then doing a blackout for 3 days tends to deal with string algae or hair algae pretty well.
Yeah.
It's another fairly common algae that turns up from hobbyists. Most of these are again caused by imbalances of either light, phosphates, or nitrates for the general part of it. I don't feel as hobbyists we test our phosphates enough to be totally fair. We normally just check the big four, the ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate, and then pH, and that kind of is it. But yeah, phosphates is another one that needs to be taken into account more often, and yeah. So yeah. That's another thing. Just again, tank maturing, and all the balancing, everything just puts on where it needs to be.
Yeah, it's always good never to panic when something like that happens, and something just ride it through.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of really, really nice aquariums with big monster fish, like your big Americans, that are sort of filled and covered with blackbeard algae. I think it really looks quite spectacular. If you can keep it at bay on your wood and your ornaments and your rocks and stuff like that, it just adds that natural feature where in a lot of big American tanks you can't have plants or whatnot. You kind of just left for what the fish will let you have, but because they don't touch the blackbeard, it gives this nice. It's weird saying blackbeard is nice, but it gives this nice.
It kind of flows around, doesn't
it? Yeah. So like, even then, it can be quite suitable. A lot of people get worried about diatoms algae at the start of. We probably should have written down a list of algae we're going to talk to. It might have made it a little bit easier. Diatoms happens often. That happens at the start of the aquarium setup. It's really, really common when you first set it up. You can either straight up just wipe it off your glass, wipe it off your ornaments, let your filter suck it up. Or you can just leave it. It'll eventually disappear. Bristlenose ottos, they'll devour it with no major issues whatsoever as well, if you want to go down that route. Or you can just water change it up.
Yeah, the best thing is just to kind of maintain your water changes and sit tight, because it will go away. It's one of those, a lot of people call it the ugly stage.
Totally. Yeah.
It's hard though, because you put all that work into setting up the hardscape, and you just want to sit back and enjoy the fish, and boom, your tank is rank.
Yep, it just is. It's just part of it. And for those that have dealt with many setup of tanks, you know it's coming. And you can, again, either water change it out prior to it happening, or you just roll with it. The Dwarf Tanganyikan display tank we've got has currently got diatoms beginning to occur on it quite nicely, I think. So I'm just wiping off the front glass so we can see into it. But all the rocks are beginning to go nice and brown. So I'm hoping that in time that brown might transfer to green, because I think that'll look quite spectacular having some algae growing in there that is green. So that's the fingers crossed for that. And yes, silicates are the main cause, as Cam said. So a silicate removing chemical media clears it up in no time as well. If you want to be lazy and you don't want to water change it out and you want it nice and clean straight away, silicate clears, you deal with them real quickly. So diatoms is a really common algae, particularly at the start. And there's green dust algae, which is another one. Difference between green dust and green spot. Green dust you can wipe off with your hand. Green spot you can't. Once they both sort of take over, they're quite hard to tell the difference. But the green dust you can wipe off really easily. Green spot you can't. You normally need like a razor or a EFTPOS card or credit card or something like that to actually physically scrape it off, because it's very hard and sticks to it as well. Green spot, far away.
It's quite a common one for a newly planted aquarium as well. Once before everything's kind of took foot and had a time to get into a proper cycle.
Yep, it's a balance thing, and I always thought that green dust is a balance and a mature thing, much like a diatoms. It just takes a bit of time to work through that. Once your aquarium is mature, generally speaking, green dust algae doesn't tend to turn up as often. It's about a young, immature one. So again, you can water change out of it.
What you don't want to do is try and wipe it off.
Because it goes through.
Yeah, because it just spreads like crazy.
Yeah. From memory, it's a phosphates issue off the top of my head. Too much phosphates causes green dust, but I might be wrong there. And again, so generally speaking, water changes helps that out. And then green spot is different again. It's often caused by too much light, or direct sunlight can be really bad for green spot algae. This one is a far harder one to get rid of. You do have to scrub and scratch it off, so to speak, because it is really hard. But again, in the right circumstance, it can look fairly nice when it's sort of taken over a bit and in the right places you want it, all over rocks and stuff like that. So, Other than green water, which we've already sort of briefly talked on, they're the main algae we get through. Cyanobacteria is obviously another one, which isn't an algae, it's a bacteria, but that's probably another really common algae that people run into. Again, it's a bacteria, which makes it a bit more difficult. I'm curious to know if Cam's still watching, how his experiment with adding lots of flow went with getting rid of the cyanobacteria. So from my understanding, cyanobacteria is present in pretty much every single body of water in the world, or fresh water in the world. It's just whether or not it's got the nutrients it needs to take over. So if you don't know what cyanobacteria is, it's also known as green slime, red slime algae, sort of blanket stuff, generally speaking, surfaces at the bottom of the aquarium, sometimes on stuff. You can peel it off like a sheet. So you sort of just take it off and it all kind of comes with it. And it smells like
swamp.
Old socks. Yeah, swamp water. It's kind of gross. So yeah, it's a bacteria over a algae. There is some pretty simple cleanup. Erythromycin, I believe, clears it out pretty quickly if you want a chemical fix. In New Zealand, you can get a product called Ultra Clear. Ultra Life, that cleans it up ridiculously well as well. And Cameron said that Flo fixed it in about 3 days, and then manually removing it, and so it won't grow back. Yeah, so you're manually removing it. It's another really good option. Doesn't tend to respond very well to blackouts. But yeah, I've found that a chemical is normally a really good clean. There you go, cleans up cyanobacteria well. I found chemical works the best for it. Also found that corridoras do really well if you've got sand and it's on there. If you manually remove a bit of it and let your corridoras do their magic, they'll shuffle their way through it, break it up, pulls it into your filtration, and away you go.
Yeah.
I would suspect, but I'm not 100% sure on this, if you have a UV filter and it's flowing through the filter, that the bacteria itself will be knocked out by the UV filter if it's strong enough as well. That's just a theory, but I don't know for sure. I just suspect it probably will be. Yeah.
I've not had much experience with that, but it should, like you said, in theory, it should zap it.
Yeah, you're right. It absolutely stinks and it makes your fingers smell. It's not a very nice algae whatsoever, but yeah. So yeah, that's the base of most of them. I think someone asked before, how do you get algae in blackwater aquariums very skillfully? I think low flow really helps algae in blackwater. I find that string algae tends to be quite a common one in blackwater aquarium. At least it's the ones that I've encountered the most. And again, it's a sort of a low flow type of scenario. Mm-hmm. Attaches to little bits and pieces here and there and just sort of gets little bits running through it. So, yeah.
I think it's good as well to have more live plants because they will outcompete any algae for nutrients in the water.
For the best part, yeah.
Yeah. And they look better anyway.
Yeah. As I mentioned before, UV filters work pretty well for a lot of algae as well, but they only work if the algae is in the water. If it's attached to stuff, the UV won't work. So you've actually got to get the algae into the water for it to run through it to be able to kill it all off and things like that. So, yeah. So that, I think, probably covers most of the more common varieties of algae that I encounter as a shop owner and people coming and talking about it. Probably the more common ones that occur in the hobby as a general rule. Yeah, in my mind, in my experience, algae isn't something to be overly concerned about unless you're trying to go for this really pristine, immaculate-looking aquarium. And most of them can be combated with a bit of extra maintenance as well, whether that be more plants to absorb the nutrients, whether it's more water changes to physically remove it, whether that's a UV filter to break it down or what have you. So, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what we've got for the day.
Yeah.
We're done. How good.
Okay.
Anything else to add, John?
No, just algae. Yeah. Every time it's going to get it, learn to live with it.
So, just a little bit of behind the scenes. Normally by about Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll text John and say, hey, sweet, what are we talking about on this week's Finatics Friday Coffee Date? Totally forgot about it until John texted me this morning at 7:30 or 8 o'clock and said, what are we talking about? So we frantically worked out, pushed a couple of ideas through. We didn't really like them. And then maybe about 10 minutes before we came on, we started talking about it. So that's why this little algae topic's a little bit vague. We don't have a lot of notes. And like I said, we probably should have written down a whole bunch of types of algae for us to start talking to, but that's where we are. But
we do have the blog coming out. So anything that we've missed, the blog will cover.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone that always grows on the glass streaming, like the biofilm cam, that you can just sort of, the weird white filmy stuff that can also occur on the Aqua One heater suction cups. If that's the case, I always just thought that was a biofilm as opposed to an algae per se. I might be wrong. I suspect that Rebecca might know the answer to that one, maybe. So yeah, once again, we're very much underprepared for today, in particular for the the topic after the general conversation, but that's okay. It is what it is.
There's lots of questions and conversations going on in the comments today, though. Definitely.
Because algae is such an interesting topic that nobody really likes talking about, because algae sucks for most people.
I know. But it's algae.
Yeah. So the one on the glass I always thought was a biofilm as opposed to an algae. But I'm not 100% sure. Do you think frozen food might make it to Northlands? Yes, no dramas at all. Yeah, absolutely. There'll be no dramas. So every frozen box we send, we fill up as much as we can with ice packs. So like, if you just buy one tray of Cyclops, for example, fill it up with frozen ice packs. It all goes overnight. For the vast majority, as long as it arrives overnight, which majority of things do, everything turns up still 95% totally frozen still. So every now and then the sort of outer pieces might begin to feel a little bit soft, but they are still basically solid in the middle. So I'm fairly confident to say yes, going up to Northland, it will be absolutely fine, as long as you're not rural, because rural takes 2 days, and that might change it a little bit. But if it's overnight, generally speaking, it's absolutely fine. Is there a list somewhere of groups of fish that work well together as well, community and aggressive? I have come across a chart, I'm sure people have before. I can't remember the name of the chart, but it's a square one that's got like the variety of fish along the side and the variety of the fish along the top, and it kind of crosses over to what's acceptable or what could work together and what not. That's the only thing that I can kind of think of off the top of my head that I've seen that will do that. I suspect that for the best part, nobody's really willing to go into that, because there's so many different species of fish, other than being broader than like platies and cories and angels and African cichlids, for example. But also there's such a large margin for error when it comes to that sort of thing, and to have that sort of written in chart form saying, yep, 100% you'll have no issues if you put this fish with this fish, but then you have an issue, is probably why there's not too many of them hanging around. Yeah, because
I like
end of the day, you're far away.
I like the idea of this, like a blog series. You could do a blog on one tank to set up and list potential tank mates, and over here, do that way. Yeah.
For the best part, all of these are recommendations, and some fish just might not like some fish, and that always has to be considered. They might just have a rogue male that doesn't like anything else anywhere near it, regardless of it being one of the most friendliest, happy species available. So, yeah. What else have we got? Not real. Yeah, not real. You should be absolutely fine.
Oh,
Rebecca's obviously answered a question.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I shared that too early.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we're all good here.
Yep, cool. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, algae isn't glamorous for most people, but it is what it is. I haven't discussed this with John, but on my list of topics to cover in written form is the main algae. Is very similar to how he's just written a blog on green water, a blog on blackbeard, string algae, here algae. So, it's on my list. I was just thinking of filtering it through to you really slowly every month or so, giving you a new one to target. But maybe we'll do a full algae series on that as well.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Right, we've got a question here, and I can't read that word. Oh, hands off. Paro something Meanus project. Have I heard of this project before? Should I write this down? I will write that down. I wonder if there's something that I've never seen before or I've just not noticed before. Thank you for the suggestion. In US.
Oh, look at this Grammy.
I will, I'll do some Googling and find out what you're talking about and go from there. I know you're pretty keen on the licorice gourami, so that might be a fun little topic. So, we'll do a few Googling and all that kind of stuff. And yeah. It's a really large word, and I don't think it's one that I want to try and pronounce live for the first time ever. So, yeah, we can just call them paras, eh?
Yeah, paras.
Look at ice gourami.
I like that one.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So, I think that's probably going to be it. We've potentially got ourselves some more guests to come on with that one. So, thank you very much. We'll probably disappear now. For those of you that have been following us on Facebook, I've got a bit of sick neon tetras going on, so I've got to put my bit of attention onto that from the order that we came on Tuesday. Also, some of the albino corridors are beginning to act a bit weird as well, and I've lost 2 of them in the last 2 days as well. So a bit of attention's got to go on to the quarantine holding racks over the next few days just to see what's going on and work out what's going on there. So I'll keep everybody updated on them on Facebook. It's just, part and parcel of having a fish shop as you lose fish, and it's just us trying to combat that and showing you what we're doing and how we're trying to rectify the issue that we've got going on. So if you haven't followed us on Facebook, it's worthwhile. Also, I'm really enjoying doing TikTok content recently. I don't know why. I'm just enjoying it. In particular, doing daily vlog. So basically, from when I get here in the morning to when I leave in the afternoon, just a few snippets of what I do throughout the day, different things we have to do, various tasks and stuff like that, just to giving everyone a bit of an insight of what it's like to be running a fish shop or having this as a job. So if you're not following us on TikTok, get amongst that as well. So it's a good time. And yeah, it is school holidays. School holidays as of last day today for school, from my understanding. So that is a good time. Not really for all the parents out there.
Yeah, our kids just broke for 6 weeks.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow's the last day, Friday.
Yeah.
So yeah. Bulk.
Yeah. And as Gary said, go the Warriors. Big night tonight against Souths. So fingers crossed we can get the biscuits and get another couple points and keep putting us into the top 4. So, yeah. Cool. Let us be gone. Thank you very much for everybody who has joined us. Really appreciate it. Sorry we weren't slightly more prepared on what we were doing. We could have had a bit more conversation on algae, but it is what it is. We covered a bit. Other than that, team, have a good one. Happy fish keeping. Catch you later.
Take it easy, guys.
See you later.
Bye.